So your posts are all in place. If all of these posts should be the same level as all of these posts, in this situation, all of these posts should be at the same level to each other. So assuming that's happened, this is really, we'll see more of this in the training, so I'm not going to try to explain a whole lot of this on the screen. Just think about the types of trusses, your gable truss, your lean-to trusses, your header truss. So again, there's two main times you use a header truss. It's always when you want to skip a post. And there's two main times you might want to skip a post. It's going to be in your way because you want a door there, or it's going to be in your way because you just want a really wide space. So in this case, they want a really wide space. So this is a custom header that spans 30 feet. So it skips this post and this post, but still gives those lean-to trusses something to bolt to, since there's no wood post there. Hip. So this hip truss is a little different. The cups are running the same direction as the hip, and that is going to be placed the same level as all the other trusses, all the other roof purlins, so they're all at the same level and supporting that. Alternately, some people just skip that and stick build it, and neither one is right or wrong. You can stick build a hip out of wood just like you would stick build a hip when you're going with wood trusses. So, and I don't have snoot trusses here because they're much less common. So lifting the truss up. So there are many ways to lift the truss up, and a lot of it depends on how wide the trusses are, how tall the walls are, and of course, what equipment you have or are willing to rent or get. The main thing is it might be needing to be lifted higher than you expect, because you're not just trying to lift it to the 14-foot height of the walls. If it's 14-foot high, you also need to lift it the height of the truss and the height of whatever strap or hook your equipment is dealing with. So again, a very tiny building. In this case, these are, I think, around 10-foot high walls and very narrow building, 10-foot wide building. Ladders are sufficient. But if you get into larger building sizes, you're going to need something more than that. It's just not going to cut it. So telescopic boom attachment, you can get those for all types of equipment. It doesn't have to be telescopic. That just gives you a little bit more ability to define how far it goes out. People make these. You can weld together a long beam and some kind of hook and use the natural lift heater equipment to get you what you need. It's not going to be quite as versatile as something that's telescopic. So keep that in mind. It just really depends on what you're trying to lift and what you have to do it with. Wool lifts are great as they extend out, and you can use those for a lot more things on your job site. So depending on whether you're going to need to use that for moving around your wood and helping prep, might be not a bad idea to just go ahead and rent one of those. So when you're doing that, typically, whether that be a strap or a hook, pulling up in the middle, if it's really wide, you may want to think about adding a couple more straps to some additional spots. If you start lifting up, it's pretty, it's going to tell you what it's going to do pretty quick. Ours are not near as tough as some of them because, again, it already has that built-in brace. The built-in brace makes it a lot more rigid than some that just have a single bolted bar, a third down the truss. And then straps to the ground. So typically you're going to loop the strap around each side, or at least one side. So you can have the ground guy just kind of help pull it right or left. Since the one is doing the lifting, you can do some shifting, but to have a little bit more control of where it's going to land. So truss bracing. Your very first truss, you're going to need to screw some wood together if it's a really tall building. but you're looking to do something like you did with the post. It needs to be supported, so you're working with that to get it where you want it to be. Typically, the first truss is also a little more on the outside of the post versus all the rest of the trusses. They're typically right smack in the middle. So keep that in mind, depending on what your post layout is. Your very first truss at your gable ends can be a little bit differently placed, typically more on the outside. So you're going to connect that, anchor that, and just work with it till you've got it where you need it to be level. And so the rest of those, you can, after this one's set, you can use that, the roof roof purlins. Those are already set, 10 foot on center. And you can use that to get your consistent spacing from there. So they'll help you with your spacing. They'll also help keep those level. So they'll keep them where they're not moving this way or that way. So typically you might install one towards the top, one towards the bottom. You don't have to put them on. You can skip about every other. And so thinking about this truss, so you've got lag bolts that are holding it in the post. The post typically 6x6 up to a certain height, and also up to a certain building width. And that's something that if you specify, we'll work with what you ask us to do. If you don't specify, we'll go by a standardized chart based on the height and the building width and just common industry standards. And that will affect the placement of those posts too. So if we figure it with 6x6s and you end up just using all 8x8s without saying, hey, can you send me another post placement? Well, those all might need shifted a little bit to keep that in consideration, even the width of your building. So 6x6 posts, lag bolts, those are bolted together. There is a right and a left. So most people just lay them out on the ground. You pull your rights over here, pull your lefts over here, bolt them, bolt them, bolt them. And then for your roof purlins, they have a cup. So typically, depending on, you just basically take a black metal roof screw. We figure those with the kit. And so those are right in the middle of the cup for all of the interior roof purlins. The very first roof purlin, unless specified otherwise, we're going to figure it longer. So if you have a 10 foot on center post, the very first roof purlin, set of roof purlins on the side, we'll figure this at 12 foot. We figure 1.5 foot overhang default with our kits. So if you want something different, if you don't want any overhang, well, you might go with a straight up 10 foot if you place your post and your truss at the right spot, and you can avoid having those panels that extend past. You don't need quite as much trim. We highly recommend a roof overhang. House, garage, barn, it keeps the water away from your building. And just that's what we do by standard. If you want something different, tell us, and we can adjust that. So 1.5 foot overhang standard for your roof purlins on the edges. So at this point, these have already connected. So pause just a moment there. So again, this is a right and a left. So don't think you're going to take a left and a left and make that work. You'll be interfered with. They won't set right. So you're going to take, in this case, 3 bolts, pull those tight. And basically the best way to do that is take your stack of rights, put them across on your stack of lefts, go ahead and stage them and bolt them together on the ground. You'll see that they'll be different. Like if you stick it next to the other side, I believe it's all like where they come bundles in 5s. So it'd be all the rights 5 and all the lefts 5 on top of each other. Is there a certain height that these posts would be out of the concrete? The height of the post really depends on the building requirements. Oh, the support. Okay. So that's a great question. So in this situation, we didn't want these concrete pollens to be too heavy for us to take in the home shows, and so we didn't pour it all the way up. We didn't want to have to bring a forklift in instead of mail, put them on a wagon and carry them. That's an excellent question. So very rarely will you leave a gap like that. There are a few cases where if you're going to pour a concrete pad later for a porch or something like that, some people will stick a 2x4 and they'll use it as a riser to lift that. So there is a gap like that. If you're going to pour later, but you still want those posts to be fully out of that concrete that's going to be poured later. So this is gable truss. So these are lag bolts. And so basically the same thing. You're going to use an impact driver. Important thing is the top of those posts all need to be level for all four corners, or if this is the east side, you want to make sure those are all level. So that's where we talked about that rotary laser tool would be excellent for that. You could set yourself a standard, here's where the bottom of the floor is, and even if these aren't really all at the same elevation, that's not critical. You got to decide what is the bottom of my floor going to be. Set that level, and then measure up from that to find, I want a 14-foot from there. I want a 16-foot from there. Cut that one flush. Take that rotary laser and just take it around to all of them. Mark the top where you want your posts to be so they're all at the same height. Cut them all off. Cutting those off, if you have just a standard saw, you may have to cut all the way around and then come back with a jigsaw and cut off the middle part, or sawzall and cut off the middle part. They also make big saws that'll cut all the way through it in one big slice. So part of that's depending on what you have and how many buildings you're going to put up. Big saw might be worth it if you're going to do a lot of buildings. Let's do it one shot. And these are representative of our typical trusses. So 412 slope. This is 10 foot on center. If you had a longer building, just remember that in this case, your outside might be 10 foot. But if you had a longer building, your center to center on all of them will be 10 foot, except for usually your very most outer posts will be set in just a little bit to allow the outside of that building to be a true 60 foot long or 50 foot long. So the same thing, these are pretty well self-supporting, but if this was a 40 foot long truss, we're going to have to brace it. So we're going to brace it from the top, secure it down on the ground, and then work with it till we get it vertical, till we get it level. So these are lean-tos. And so typically what you're looking at with the lean-to is if you ask for a 10-foot lean-to, or that's going to be from the outside of your existing building to the outside of the post on that lean-to. So that's 10 foot if it's an attached lean-to. If you have a freestanding lean-to, it's going to be outside of post to outside of post. So we stock 12 foot and 20 foot lean-tos that are designed for attachments. We can provide the freestanding as well. Some people use those for freestanding and just work with them. So that you're fastening to the post on both sides. So to get those, I mean, again, if you follow the post layout, that'll give you how far to set those posts, whether it's center to center or center to outside. It'll give you that spacing. Just look at the drawings before you drill your hole or before you set your brackets. Pause just for a moment if you don't mind.
Okay, we're bolting bottom, and my question is, if we're concerned with air.
So these are lean-tos. And so typically what you're looking at with the lean-to is if you ask for a 10-foot lean-to, or that's going to be from the outside of your existing building to the outside of the post on that lean-to. So that's 10 foot if it's an attached lean-to. If you have a freestanding lean-to, it's going to be outside of post to outside of post. So we stock 12 foot and 20 foot lean-tos that are designed for attachments. We can provide the freestanding as well. Some people use those for freestanding and just work with them. So that you're fastening to the post on both sides. So to get those, I mean, again, if you follow the post layout, that'll give you how far to set those posts, whether it's center to center or center to outside. It'll give you that spacing. Just look at the drawings before you drill your hole or before you set your brackets. Pause just for a moment if you don't mind.
Okay, we're bolting bottom, and my question is, if we're concerned with air lift off, do we have the choice of bolting instead of screwing this? Okay, he's saying this.
Yes, so you can, that's an excellent question. These are lag bolts. You can use through bolts, you can use carriage bolts, so that you can bolt or use lag bolts, both for your gable trusses or your lean-tos. The lag bolts are the more common, but either one work great.
So if I can call you and give you, hey, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do with this building, you get.
We can provide it, or if you want a specialized fastener, we can provide the quantity. So we have some people that want a very specific type of fasteners. Whether we provide or not, we can make sure you have what you need to get your customer what they need.
What's the pitch on the shed?
So the most common is a 112. That's what's shown here. So 412 most common on gables, 112 most common on lean-tos. That's what we stock. We can provide anything you can imagine. It's going to depend on the complexity and the pitch and what you want. We can provide additional options on that.